Hey, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly photo chats. So today I want to talk about fame. I was thinking about how many young photographers I meet who say they really want to be a famous photographer. And I was thinking a lot about that. And I was thinking, most people couldn't name a famous photographer. If you went to the shopping mall or to the town square and said to 100 people, name a famous movie star, they all could. Name a famous rock star, they all could. But if you said name a famous photographer, maybe they would come up with Ansel Adams. And he was like 50 years ago. But he was marketed well. And maybe they might think of Annie Leibovitz, who's probably the most known name in celebrity photography. But there really isn't a whole lot of famous photographers that are known to the masses. Now, William Eggleston and Stephen Shore and Joel Meyerowitz and Robert Frank, all of those are people we know if we're in the photography world. But if you talk about being famous so that you're going out and people recognize you as a photographer, that doesn't really happen. And one of the reasons why, well, let's talk about celebrity photographers. There was a time I was walking down the boardwalk in New Jersey, and there was a display of postcards. And I saw one of Alfred Hitchcock standing against a wall. If you didn't know who Alfred Hitchcock was, and I'm betting there are some young people who don't, it was just a picture of a fat man in a suit. But because I have recognizability to that fat man in a suit, I know it's Alfred Hitchcock. And I go, oh, look, Alfred Hitchcock. And celebrity photography is exactly that. You may get to photograph the celebrities, but they're the celebrity. You're not. I can name Gregory Heisler or Platon or Dan Winters. They all photograph celebrities. But how many people really know their names? And I think that that's a interesting consideration to go forward and know, make the work that you love. First of all, fame cannot come to you because of what you do to make it. Fame can only come to you because you're doing work that is found and the culture decides it's something that they need to make famous. But you can't process that. You don't have a strategy to make fame. Fame comes as a result of other factors. The Beatles were just making music, and fame came because the worlds collided with their quality and the need and the right time and place. And there's so much of that I think that a lot of young people want to be influencers. They want to be famous. And it's like, really, just be important to the work. Just make the work what you're about, because that's really what's most important. And if you look at what a celebrity photographer does all day, they're basically shooting marketing photos. Really no different than the person shooting catalog photos of products. It's just a different product. And it seems more glamorous to be photographing stars than cans of soup. But both of them are pretty easy when it comes down to it. Frankly, you don't have to be the greatest photographer to be a celebrity photographer. Terry Richardson photographed a lot of famous people with a point and shoot with a flash. That isn't necessarily great photography, but it didn't matter because we have a great face. Look, that's Barack Obama. So a lot of things that drive people to want to make their name, all you really can do is the work. I have shot pro sports. I've worked alongside of Sports Illustrated photographers, and I can't name one. And I think it's probably more important to be famous amongst your peers. To be able to go to a conference where photographers are and people know who you are there, that's much more important to me than to be famous walking down the street in my town. And I probably would suspect that walking down my street and being stopped by people because they're fans would probably get annoying. So I question why people feel that need to. We are in a world right now with the likes on Facebook and the hearts on Instagram where we want to be validated. We want to think that we're doing something that, we're good. And if we get more likes, more hearts, then we're even better. We must be doing well. Look how good we are. But you're good if you're doing your work, and you're doing your work because of you. There was a statement that Jim Jarmusch, the independent filmmaker, made that said he calls himself an amateur filmmaker. And he says, I've always liked the word amateur because amateur means someone who does it for love, not for money. Isn't chasing the audience, but is doing what I want to do. And I think that's probably the best place you can be. If you're working because of what you hope will influence, you're not making your real good, true work. If you're working for the like, you're not really working for what really jazzes you. And that's what we need to make. We need that from you. We need your work. Because nobody else can see what you see. Nobody else can see my vision. And if I don't make the work, it just doesn't exist. So I'm a big proponent of, if you want to shoot sports, is your granddaughter just having finished a very difficult gymnastics move? Photograph that. Now you're a sports photographer. You want to shoot a celebrated face? Photograph your grandpa. Tell him you love him while you shoot that picture and get that little spark in his eye that no other celebrity photographer could get because they didn't connect. I just don't think that celebrity is really what people want. They just think that it's a royal life. They think it's living in a Malibu house with a pool. But that's not the real world. The real world is the work. What is the photograph that you need to make? What is the photograph that speaks to you, that you make, that you put on a wall, you gift to a friend, that documents something that says something about you? Not about what the audience might like, not about what will get you further along in the route to fame, which, like I said, doesn't even exist. If you go to weddings and you photograph as a wedding photographer, the decorations on the tables and the rings and the dress, and you're just making photos of pretty things, how difficult is that? See, I think that it's easy to photograph pretty things with lots of soft bokeh. And it's easy to be that photographer who just wants to shoot movie stars because right away, of course, they're pretty. But shooting your grandpa is much more of a challenge because you can draw out a little bit of who he is. And I think that it's important that it's not all about just pretty things. It's not just about what will get me the likes. So I'm not just going to change into that kind of photographer. We have to be the kind of photographer we want to be and who we are. I talk about landscape photography, and I'll sometimes say it's an easy kind of photography. And I don't say that to be controversial, but when I see pictures in galleries of nature, to me, nature is what made that. Nature made the magic. And the photographer just had to get up early and out there and show up. When I see pretty wedding flowers and rings and place settings, I think the art director, the decorator made that. The photographer just had to show up and shoot it. That's different than sports, like pro football, where you don't know where to stand on the sideline. You can move throughout the game. And you have to choose a spot, and you have to guess where it's going to happen, and you have to hope that you're in the right place to get it. And it's moving and you have to focus and frame and it's unpredictable. And the same is true for street. Really, you're going out into the street. Here's what a street photographer does. He or she goes out and says, I'm going to go out and walk amongst the people doing boring things, randomness, just going about their ordinary, boring lives, and I'm going to somehow make art out of it. That's difficult. That takes a little bit more of an eye to be able to be reflexive, to be able to grab that moment. I see that as a difference. I'm not saying that there is no value in landscape photography. There certainly is. And I'm betting you can make more money selling photos of mountains and wildflowers than you can of street. But as far as mountains and wildflowers fall into the category for me of pretty things, so to me does celebrity. So to me does anything that's posed and ready for you. All you have to do is show up and be proficient enough to frame and fire the camera. And the people who go to war, they're celebrated for the fact that they went and put their lives at risk to get those photos. They might even win a Pulitzer Prize. And we still don't know their name. Because fame is not the end game in photography. The end game is make the photographs that matter to you, that speak to you, that make you excited to be out there, to make the photos you can't not make, to make the photos that are most true to you. And then you will have succeeded as becoming the best photographer you can be. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. If you can support, even with a cup of coffee a month, hit the Patreon. I really appreciate all my supporters. And I'll be back next week. We'll talk photography. As always, here's the good light.